Signed in?
It's
You all
going.
signed in? Thank you.
You're welcome.
And chip
Yeah,
in
right.
in terms of things that come on.
Well,
All right.
shall
We should.
okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for showing up today, and we are very fortunate to have a special presentation about preparing the Eagle Spur proposals. And as I've been writing to everybody, Dr. Masterson does such a wonderful job because he takes you through step by step. It isn't just vague kind of airy-fairy recommendations. This is a way that you can get the best practical information and do the most superb presentation that you can submit. So thank you very much for joining us.
So I guess in interest of full disclosure, we are recording. So
Okay.
we're recording up here, and I'm recording as well. So we'll have this, and we'll be able to share it with you when we're done. If you'd like to be able to see it again. As Dr. Danforth said, my name is Dr. Doug Masterson, and I'm in the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry, and I'm on the steering committee for the Center for Undergraduate Research. And this is probably my 6th time or something to give this talk.
So, and you're also now Associate Dean of College of Science
yeah,
and
Associate
Technology.
Dean of College of Science and Technology. But I'm not here on that part today. This is strictly my first love of research and undergraduate research in particular. Some things have changed since the last time I gave this talk. So the way that the proposals are actually going to be uploaded from now on is through Aquila, our digital. And Dr. Danforth prepared some slides that I put at the end. So the stuff that you're going to see at the beginning is all about what you need to be thinking about when you put your document together. And then we'll talk about the process of actually how you get that into Aquila.
We're trying to make the submission process easier, so it may sound more complicated, but it's just an upload.
So, we'll deal with those questions kind of towards the end. So try to keep that in mind as we go on. So the workshop goals that we have for today are really to try to demystify the proposal process, because many undergraduate students have never had to put together a proposal for an award. You may have had to submit a resume, or you may have had to write an essay or a paper of some sort, but a proposal is a very different process. And there are some limits to what the space that you have to do this in, and you have to be very precise and succinct in your writing style. And so it is a little different than a lot of the assignments that you've had to do in the past. Okay? We're going to talk a little bit about what makes an excellent proposal. Okay? First and foremost is the idea, right? You've got to have a good idea for this to be successful. It also turns out that this is the most frustrating part of the proposal, and it's the part that today I will not be able to help you with at all. You have to come up with that with your mentor. The idea is going to be unique to yours. It can't be my idea. And so I can tell you some things that are, sound like a good idea to me, but when you go talk to your mentor, they may say, that's been done 100 times. I'm not in your field, so I'm not necessarily the expert with the idea that you may have. Another thing that makes an excellent proposal for a CUR award, or a SPUR award I should say, is an involved faculty member. Very, very important. There has to be a faculty-mentor-student relationship, okay, and that has to be evident in the proposal. It can't just be that you're going to go off and do something completely on your own without any guidance or any mentoring from your faculty advisor. We take that very, very seriously. So you need to have an involved faculty mentor. Many of you probably already have that, but we can also help you through the center identify faculty mentors if you have an idea and are in search of a mentor, which does happen from time to time. Okay? We also need to know that you're excited and interested in what you're doing. Okay? And I use fireworks here for this, obviously. We don't want this to be just a project that you have to do. We want it to be something that you're passionate about. Not, this is going to be just something to get done so I can graduate. This has got to be something that you really want to do, a question or a project that really, fires you up and gets you excited to come into school and actually work on these types of projects. Okay, so we got to see that in the proposal as well. And of course, the quality and clarity of writing. You have to keep in mind, you've got to keep it short and sweet, and you've got to understand that maybe you're in architecture, right?
Yes, Yes.
But I'm a chemist. And that there might be somebody from chemistry, and that proposal is getting reviewed by somebody in English. And so you need to write it in such a way that a broad range of reviewers could understand what it is you're trying to do. Okay? So you want to keep the technical jargon as much as possible to a minimum. And we understand that there are just some words that you're going to have to use, but try to be of high quality and clarity in your writing so that a wide range of people can understand what you're talking about. And then, of course, an appropriate budget. Okay? The money. We will look very seriously at your budget. Okay? It's not just an automatic $1,000 if you win. Okay? If you're proposing a project that really is only going to cost $600 and you've asked for the $1,000, we're probably going to reduce your budget. Okay? So keep that in mind. And some projects may actually go over $1,000. We can only give you up to the $1,000, and then you have to identify where these other sources through your mentor, your department, your college, wherever, honors college, wherever else you may be able to get the additional money. So we do look very, very carefully at the proposed budget. Okay? So let's start off by talking about the idea. Okay? And like I said earlier, this is the most difficult part of any proposal. As a faculty member, this is the thing that I stay up at night worrying about. What's my next idea, right? What's the next thing that's going to drive me crazy for 4 months while I put together that NSF proposal for me, okay? That's the most difficult part, and it's going to be the frustrating part, right? It's the part that you're sitting there worrying about all the time. The good news is that many of you, because you're showing up here today, probably already have an idea of what interests you. Okay, now you just have to refine and hone that idea into a competitive proposal. Okay? This must be original, and the student must, and I put in quotes, own the project. That does not mean that this idea couldn't have developed with you and your mentor. Okay, I'm not saying that. However, this has to be a project that you're taking ownership of, something that you're going to be the lead point person on in terms of the conducting that research. Okay? If it comes across as, I'm here to help a graduate student collect their data for their dissertation, that doesn't fly. Okay? That doesn't mean you can't collaborate with a graduate student. That doesn't mean that you can't have that interdisciplinary approach or that multi-investigator approach. But what it is that you're going to be talking about in that idea, it has to be clear that this is what you're going to do, and it's going to be, you're going to be the person at the end that's the expert in that. That's what we're looking for. Okay? Needs to be something that you're interested in or passionate about, and we talked about that earlier in terms of student excitement. Needs to be clearly communicated in the proposal. There are times when we look at proposals that it's at the very end you get an idea of what the idea really was. We need to have that idea up front. Okay? We need to know what that idea is going to be. Okay? And again, don't assume that the panel is going to understand your idea using all the language that you've learned about in your field. Okay? So write it. Don't go quite this far, but the analogy I like to use is write it so your grandmother can understand it. Okay? So she didn't want to put it up on her refrigerator door. All right? Something like that. So think about it from that point of view as you're writing. It's usually a good idea to have your friends read it who aren't in your field. Do you understand what I'm trying to accomplish here? And if they say yes, you've probably done a pretty good job. Now, they may not have caught all your spelling errors and all that stuff, okay? But at least you know you've gotten your idea across in a way that somebody that's not in your immediate field could understand why it's important and why somebody should give you $1,000 to do it. Okay? So you may be asking where you're going to express your idea. Okay? You're going to express it in several areas. There is going to be a short cover letter of approximately 250 words. This is where you're going to tell us why you are interested in the project. And it is perfectly fine to use the first person here. Okay? For those of you in the sciences, you know you don't use the first person very often. But this is fine. We want to know why you, as an individual, are interested in this. Okay? And Marie, in the new upload, will they have the templates again?
Oh, everything is exactly the same.
Exactly the same. They're just going to upload the.
They just upload this file.
Upload the files.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
So they will kind of look like what we're going to be looking.
It's exactly the same.
Okay. So this is where you're going to want to describe the idea. Tell us a little bit about where the idea came from. Did this come from the fact that you had a waking dream and you came up with something really, really cool to do? Did it come from a conversation you had with your advisor after a class one day? Did it come to you in the middle of Starbucks? I mean, I don't know, but we want to know where this idea came from. We want you to illustrate your enthusiasm for it. Maybe there's a personal reason why this project is very important to you. You know, maybe you're studying health benefits of something. You know, you're in the College of Health, for example, and maybe you have a personal connection to a family member that's the reason why you're interested in this project. We want to know these kinds of things. Very, very important, though, this is not an abstract of the submission. This is a personal statement for why you want to conduct this research. Okay? And so quite frequently we will get people who submit these, and this is just an abstract, and we don't get that enthusiasm and that idea why it interests you so much out of it. And that's usually a problem. So make sure that it's not an abstract of the submission. Okay? You're also going to have a section on that we label the introduction and rationale, and you'll have approximately 500 words. And this is where you're going to tell us what your project is and why it's significant. You need to make sure you answer both of those questions. What is your project and why is it significant? We get proposals all the time where they tell us what the project is and forget to tell us why it's significant. Okay? Do not make our lives on the Center for Undergraduate Research Steering Committee easy in evaluating these. Okay? We want to have a large pool of highly competitive proposals. Okay? And so don't make it easy on us. So make sure you cover all the bases. So this is where you're going to tell us what your scholarly question is. If you're in the sciences like I am, this would be where you would talk about your hypothesis or your hypotheses. Okay? If you're in the arts, this is where you're going to talk about your project and why it's significant. Nobody's ever done this type of free-form dance before or whatever. Okay? I'm not in the arts, so I don't know what I'm talking about right now. But you get my drift, right? This is where you're going to tell us what it is that you're going to do and why it's significant. Okay? You're going to want to provide a discipline-specific context, and you're going to want to cite appropriate research and or creative literature using in-text citations. We'll talk more about the bibliography in a little bit, but you know, give people credit for what they've done in your field. Okay? Give the appropriate citations that you need to do to get your point across. Okay? So again, why is your question or goal important? Place it in the proper context. Let us know what has been done, what hasn't been done, and where your stuff fits. And this is a good place to say something about what will be advanced if your goal is achieved or your question answered. If you're in the arts, maybe it's the first time that anybody's ever built a sculpture out of this particular material before, and you're going to break new ground on this area of art. I don't know. Yes?
Can I just ask, I know you said this is being recorded, but
sure.
Can we get a copy of the slides? Or
Yeah, I'm going to send them to you. Yeah, sure.
And we'll post them on the website
Yeah,
too.
they'll be on the
so
website.
everybody can get them.
Yeah, you'll get a copy of all this. Okay? The mentor. Okay, this is a very, very important part, and it was actually something that when the steering committee was coming up with Eagle Spur, we wanted to emphasize that it's going to be not just students, but students and faculty as mentors, building relationships, building connections, guiding students to whatever it is that they want to do when they graduate. And so your mentor must be involved, and that needs to be evident in your proposal. Okay? Your mentor must be affiliated with the Center for Undergraduate Research. Okay? It's not hard for the mentor to be affiliated with the Center for Undergraduate Research. The reason that we want them to be affiliated is several reasons, but for one, they've actually gone through the CITI training, and we know that they understand the ethical responsibilities of mentorship and research. So we want to make sure that they're versed in that. Okay? So you can go to our website. I'll give you the link to that later, but you can go to the website. You can see, is my faculty advisor on the Kerr website? If they are not, just ask them to affiliate. It's a pretty straightforward process. Okay? The mentor has to have completed the city training. We're still calling it city training? I believe so, right? Yeah.
Joanne sometimes calls it CITI, not.
Yeah. But anyway, it's online training for responsible conduct of research at the University of Southern Mississippi. They will complete a mentor form agreeing to several things to mentor you so that we have verification that the mentor has agreed to actually mentor you properly throughout the process. Okay? And so they're going to give you a statement of support. that clearly summarizes the support of the faculty member in the proposed research or creative activity. I want to point out here, it is your responsibility as a student to make sure that the mentor writes a statement of support, not a letter of recommendation. We assume, and I think rightly assume, that if your mentor is willing to work with you, they are going to recommend you for this award, right? What we want to know is how they are specifically going to describe in detail how they're going to mentor you. That can be different for various fields, that can be different for various mentors, okay? But what we want to know is that they're going to spend some time with you in some form or fashion. Now, you can have a mentor that may be off campus most of the time and they have a way of digitally mentoring you properly, that's fine, okay? But what we don't want to find out is after you've started your project, all of a sudden your mentor's on sabbatical in Russia and has no way of getting in touch with you, okay? We need to know that that mentor is going to be a mentor during the time that you're conducting this research, okay? And so there's several little bullet points here that the mentor will actually sign off on. I won't read all of these, but basically if accepted by Eagle Spur, they'll provide regular mentoring and advice for the project. They have reviewed and approved the budget that's in the proposal, that they understand that the funds will actually be placed into your mentor's DE account. So if you get an award, we're not actually just going to write you a check and hand it to you. That's illegal. But it will go into your mentor's DE account, and your mentor's agreeing that, hey, I'm not going to take that money and spend it on something else. That money is there for you to use in the project as outlined in the budget. So those things are the, by your mentor signing off, those are the things that they're agreeing to. Okay?
I'll mention about the mentor too. The mentor is, you have to have a tenure track faculty member, but you can work with a graduate student as long as you're also interacting with the mentor too. So you can have several people that are actually supporting him on this work.
Absolutely, yeah. You can have the formal mentor and then less formal mentoring, or co-workers, however you want to think about it. You're going to have an area called process. This is what you will do to complete your project. This is where you're going to tell us how you'll answer your scholarly question. You'll describe the process, research design, methods, whatever it is that you're going to employ. You'll include a description of the materials and equipment that are necessary to complete the project here. Just a description, okay? You won't actually budget it here. But really, this is what you will do to answer your question. And we've had proposals in the past where in the process, when you read it, you get the sense that this is stuff that other people are doing. Okay? And that's not a good thing. We need to know what it is that you're going to do to answer your question. It can be scientific method or creative methods. In the scientific, if you're in the sciences, you're going to be kind of following the scientific method and how you describe what you're going to be completing. If you're in the arts or the humanities, it's going to be a different process to do your research. And I'm not versed in that at all. I'm a scientist. But there's a proper way of describing how you're going to do what it is that you're going to do. Okay? You need to list non-standard equipment and material needs in here. Maybe you need a piece of equipment that just isn't available at the university. This would be a place where you describe it. Maybe, mention that it's been budgeted for, you're going to purchase it, or where you can borrow it and you've got permission to borrow it, something like that. Okay? You wouldn't put things like I need paper and pencil or anything like that. That's kind of the standard material. You'll describe any off-campus needs in detail. For example, several cycles ago, we had an individual who had to go off campus to a library that had a collection that wasn't available at Southern Miss. Perfect example, they just described why it was that they had to go. I believe it was in Jackson. And that was fine. But if you say you need to go to Jackson to use the library and it turns out what you need to go to Jackson for is actually in our library, that becomes a problem. Okay? So. And make sure you make it as understandable as possible, of course. You're also going to have a section called timeline. You're going to have about 150 words here. And this is going to be where you're going to tell us how you're going to schedule your time to achieve your goals. Okay? And again, this is all about your time, not the total time that it's going to take your lab or your research group or whatever to complete the overall big picture project that maybe your mentor is engaging in. But your time on your piece. Okay? This is more important than you think. When I do these for my proposals, I like to use a Gantt chart format. There's really no way for you to put a Gantt chart in this document very easily, but it's good to sit down and think about it in terms of, you know, this week or these couple of weeks at the beginning of the semester, I'm going to be working on this part of the project. Kind of in the middle, I'm going to be working on this part of the project, so on and so forth. Okay? We do know that you have classes and everything, so when you're telling us that you're going to budget 40 hours a week to doing this research, that's a red flag, because you do have to be a full-time student to get one of these, and so that becomes an issue. So we want to make sure that you've consulted with your mentor, that you have a reasonable timeline to achieve the goals that you're proposing. Quite frequently, we will have students who propose a timeline and goals, and somebody goes, there's just no way you can achieve all that you want to achieve in a semester within this timeline. You know, so maybe you're a little too ambitious, okay? And we've also had ones that were sitting there going, this looks like this could be done in 2 weeks, and they're proposing that this be done over an entire semester, maybe even a summer. So, you know, take it to your mentor and consult with them about the timeline and the goals that you want to achieve. Okay, it's the best advice that we can give you. So make sure you're realistic and clear. And that's the take-home message. You're going to have a section called Expected Outcomes where you've got about 150 words. This is where you're going to tell us what you're going to produce and how you're going to disseminate your results. Okay? At the end, when you're done, what will you have that you can show for your efforts? That's what we're after here. Okay? So for example, are you going to develop a new technology? Maybe you're trying to develop a new robot. I don't know. Right? Something that does better than Roomba. I don't know. Maybe that's what you're after. Tell us that. That's going to be at the end. You're going to have that piece of technology. Maybe you're going to have an answer to a scientific question that's important. Tell us that. Or maybe you've designed some new piece of art or a new sculpture. Tell us that. Tell us what you're going to have at the end. Okay? And then tell us how you're going to share your work with others. Are you going to publish this? Or are you going to have a show and place your piece of artwork in that show? Whatever is done in your field, that's perfectly fine, but how are you going to share your work with others? Okay? It is a requirement of this that you must present your work within 1 year at a scholarly venue. Okay? Now, quite frequently, students write one of these Eagle Spur Awards to get the travel money to actually present the work because their advisor had the money to conduct the work in the first place. Okay? And you need the money to travel, you know, to some national conference or whatever to give a paper or a poster presentation on what it is that you've done. However, a lot of people use their money to actually conduct the work itself, and then they present the work either at like the Mississippi Academy of Sciences, which is usually held in February or March every year here on the Hattiesburg campus, or at the Undergraduate Research Symposium, which is typically held in April every spring. But you're going to have to do a presentation of some form within a year of receiving the award. So that is, yeah.
And that can be built into the budget?
It can, yes.
Those funds for
Absolutely, yes. We highly encourage that. It's a good use of the funds. We want students to be able to go out and get that experience of presenting their work in front of a scholarly venue. Okay? Your budget section is going to look something like this. Okay? You're going to have an item section. It's broken down into commodities, equipment, travel, salary, stipend, a justification, and the amount. You can request a stipend. So maybe your situation is such that you have to work to help support just life in general. Okay? Well, to do the research, you're going to have to take time off from work, and you still got bills to pay. We understand that. Okay? So you could budget in if you need to be off work a little bit in the salary stipend area. However, keep in mind, okay, that salary stipend could affect your financial aid because it is income. Okay? Now, up to $1,000, it's probably not going to influence it one way or the other too much. But just keep that in mind if you're doing that. What is the difference between a commodity and equipment? Anybody tell me? Yeah.
Equipment is something you have to make the research happen, whereas a commodity is something that would make the project easier, but not necessarily necessary.
Okay. Okay, our definition of the two is equipment is something that's not just once and gone. Okay, so in my line of work, a piece of equipment might be like a pH meter or an analytical balance where I'm weighing things out. That would be a piece of equipment. I can use it over and over again. A commodity may be, for me, it might be like chemicals, or if you're in the arts, it may be paint or the plaster or whatever it is that you're using to make your sculpture, for example. So what you need to do is list commodities here and give a justification for why you need them. If you need a piece of equipment, you need to place that there and a justification for why you need it, and then write in the amounts. Okay? Make sure that you know what these things are going to cost fairly accurately, because you've only got $1,000. And believe it or not, many of us know what these things cost. So if we see a budget where a person is proposing to do a 3-foot by 3-foot painting, and they put $1,000 for paint, the paint better be laced with gold, right? We know kind of what this stuff costs. If somebody was to ask for a pH meter, for example, I know you can get a basic handheld pH meter for about $300 or $400, and if they put in $50, I'm like, where can you get that? Because I'd really like to be able to buy a bunch of them, right? So, we kind of know what things cost. Travel. This is where if you need to go to Jackson, or you need to go to the coast, or you need to go to a conference, whatever the case may be, this is where you're going to put the travel. What are your plane tickets going to cost? What's your hotel going to cost? What's it going to cost you for food? All those kinds of things. You need to put all that in that particular area and do that. And then down here at the bottom, which is kind of cut off, this is where you'll put any additional support that you may be getting. So for example, you've asked for a full $1,000, but your project's going to cost $2,500. Where's that other $1,500 going to come from? Right? Well, my mentor has agreed to pay for the other $1,500. My mentor's agreed that they'll cover the cost of the commodities and the equipment. I've just got to come up with the travel to get back and forth, or whatever the case may be. Yeah.
Are those included in travel or not?
Are meals included? Do we include in the travel area if we're doing?
Yes.
Yeah, that's where
when people are doing on the budget, we do try to ask to be as realistic about the budget. Don't go for the full per diem, like $46 a day for food if you know you can eat on 25 or whatever. So. We had a student a short time ago that put in a per diem of $102 a day for food.
That's a nice living. Nice way to eat.
It wasn't approved by the way.
Keep in mind that you need to be detailed and realistic. This isn't free money. So when we quite frequently see a budget that adds up to, let's say, $800, and then we just see some random thing up to $200 to get to the $1,000, we know that. So keep in mind that be detailed but be realistic. Okay? Must be justified. And as Dr. Danforth said, try not to do the per diem. The mileage estimates, know exactly kind of what it's going to cost you, because we do look at those things. Okay? And then indicate the other funding sources as appropriate. I will say, believe it or not, we do actually spend quite a bit of time, and we have had proposals that have kind of fallen down a little bit because of the appropriateness of the budget. So, don't make this the last item that you do. So give me just 1 second. In my area, when I'm writing a proposal, actually one of the first things I do is the budget. For a couple of reasons. But one is it's got to get through all the university stuff while you're still putting things together. But don't put this off till the day before and just make it up, is what I'm saying. You had a question?
Do we have to know specifically where we're going to get the other money, or if we have a general idea of who we're going to raise financial support funds?
We need to be confident that you're going to be able to get what you need
Right.
to do what you need to do.
Right.
I'm trying to think of an example. Can you think of an example where we had a situation like that, Marie?
No, because most of the time students who take it, they're scared about money. That's something they're very concerned about, because money is just kind of scary to most people in that regard. So I can't think of anybody that's kind of glossing about other support.
Yeah, so we
But, like, for instance, through the department, I've had general statements made that they would support the project.
Okay,
Certain
well, in
things,
your
but
case,
I haven't.
that would be something for your mentor to put in their
Yes.
statement of
Okay,
support.
all right.
And you can just put in the budget itself, maybe say see mentor statement or something like that that
Okay.
lets us know that, and there needs to be a statement in there.
Okay.
As part of my mentoring, I'm going to ensure that Matthew has what he needs to complete. We just need to have a good idea that you're gonna be able to get what you need to do to get the project done. We don't wanna give you $1,000 and then at the end, well, I'm sorry, I just didn't have enough money to finish.
Right, all right.
That kind of thing, so.
I'm sorry, Sal, could you talk about the stipend?
I did.
You did, okay.
Yep, we talked about the stipend, yep. So in the bibliography section, you all know what you need to do in a bibliography more or less. It needs to be specific to the discipline. In chemistry, we do bibliographies very different than you're going to do in the humanities or, in architecture or in geography, geology. It's probably going to be a little different format. We don't have a specific way that you have to do it. It just needs to be disciplined, however you do it in your discipline. But there are some things that we look for. Make sure you use scholarly literature. That can be journals, books, whatever the case may be. Needs to be scholarly literature. Use databases to find your needed references. If you don't have a lot of expertise using the databases that are available, the library does offer help. You can go to the help desk and they'll help you out with that quite frequently. Have we already had the library session?
They had it online.
They had that online?
Yeah.
So,
And Jill said it was very helpful.
Okay,
They did a good
great.
job. Yeah.
So you can get help from the library if you've never used these types of resources in the past. Okay? Make sure you're using primary sources as much as possible. I know that's not always the case, but make sure you're using primary sources as much as possible. And remember, Wikipedia is not a primary source. If we see in your bibliography, Wikipedia, 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 it doesn't sit well with a scholar. Okay? And you have to remember, we may be chemists, English professors, but we're all scholars, and we all know what is acceptable literature and what is questionable. Okay? So make sure you're using as much primary literature as possible. Wikipedia is an excellent tool, but it is not a primary source. Okay? People walk up on me. Okay. No bibliography is usually a red flag to us, and that's not a good thing. You don't want red flags. Okay? So, scholar obligations, you're going to have a section where you're going to read and understand this, and that you're going to understand that acceptance of the funding support may affect your financial aid package, especially if you put stuff into a stipend, right? Because that's actually paying you. The other stuff will go directly into your, everything goes directly into your mentor's DE account, right? That's not going to count against you. But if you're starting to pay yourself, that's when you got to be concerned about that.
You have to, especially if you have another job on campus, but people have worked around it. It isn't anything that, it's a reason not to go after a stipend if you feel that it's justified. You may want to call Joanne, because she's gotten to be a pretty good expert about knowing how to work the system. And sometimes it's just a matter of what you call it, a stipend versus an award or something like that.
Okay.
And so she's learned the lingo.
Knows it better than I do. Yep. So you will complete your RCR training in IRB. Everybody has to complete the RCR training. That's the city training. That's a module that you will have to complete as a student. IRB, that's if you're going to be working with human subjects, okay, as part of your research. So, if you're building a sculpture, you're pretty safe.
Maybe I cook if you're doing animals.
And animals, yeah, I cook if you're working with animals. Anybody in here going to be working with animals or humans? Okay, so that would be IRB and iCook is going to be something you're going to have to pay attention to. And your mentor can help you through this process. Yes, sir?
You said this was online for the RCR training?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do it before you submit your application, but by the time you start your project.
That's right. So we've had students that haven't quite completed that at the time that we made the award, and Joanne's really good about holding on to the money until that's completed. So until all the check marks are checked and all the ducks are in a row, however you want to think about it, Joanne holds on to those checks. So, yeah.
What exactly is the RCR training?
Responsible Conduct of Research. It's an online series of modules. And for undergraduate students, they actually have a trimmed down version compared to faculty. So I don't think it takes you, a terribly long time.
Do you remember how long it took you?
It was, I can't tell you the number of minutes, it was fairly brief. brief though. It wasn't a major undertaking to do
Okay.
that. Or the IRB application, that was also fairly advanced.
And you're gonna agree, when you type your name in there, that you're gonna meet with your mentor. We have had situations where we've given somebody an award, and then their mentor's like, I don't know where this person went to. You know, you're agreeing that, you know, we're committing funds to you that we could have given to somebody else. We wanna make sure that, you know, you're gonna do the work. So, take that very, very seriously, okay? And of course, that you're gonna conduct your research and your project in an ethical manner. It's cutting off here at the end, but that's what that says, manner, okay? And that you're gonna preserve your research record. It's actually university policy that your research record actually belongs to the university. Okay, so you're using university funds to conduct your research. Make sure you document it, and make sure that when you leave the university, you leave those documents with your mentor. Okay? And the agreement to attend CUR workshops. So we have several workshops throughout the semesters, and when you're doing that, and of course, there's the course now, right?
UNV, yeah.
UNV 392, which you'll enroll in for, it's 1 credit hour, and we don't charge you for it. So many of you will already be full-time, and it wouldn't have cost you anything anyway, but if you happen to go over that threshold, I think it's 18 hours, then you'll still take that 1 hour. The university has agreed to waive that 1 hour so that you can do that. Marie, do you want to talk about any of the UNV 392 stuff?
Well, what we tried to do with 392 is we made it a hybrid, because we figured that was the easier way to try to deliver it to students. And so we have 3 mandatory meetings. One is which the reception at the beginning of the year. So hopefully that's a time when you can meet with each other and be celebrated with your success. Then we're going to have a mid-semester check-in, just to make sure that everything's going okay, so that if you have a problem with your mentor, that we're catching it now, rather than the stuff Dr. Masterson was saying, at the end of the semester when it's too late. And then we're going to have at the very end of the year, end of the semester, is 90-second presentations on your work. And that's something that more and more people are talking about, elevator talks. You do them in your department in 30 seconds, right?
Yes.
And the graduate school does them for 3 minutes, so we kind of split the difference. But it's a way also for everybody to share what they did during the semester. The rest of the presentations are online, and they cover everything from research ethics to the library research methods, presentations. I'm trying to remember what else it was. And those are online, and then they have a discussion board where you have to post to the discussion board for a couple of paragraphs, just mostly so we make sure that you've gone through and thought about the work a little bit.
Yep.
So, but honestly, it's a way for us to keep track that our investment is being well cared for under your responsibility to do the work. So, yeah.
And that class is the fall semester?
Both semesters.
Both, okay.
Both semesters.
So the
yeah.
semester that you're doing your research, you will be enrolled in that class.
Ah.
Yeah. So, but we just don't want people, sometimes students disappear or you have personal troubles and you're not going to class for a month. And so this is the way that we're just hoping to stay in touch with you, as well as give you some skills that hopefully expand upon and enhance what you're doing for your research as well.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about funding. The good news is our funding rate's been about consistent over the last couple of years at 50%. So about half of all the proposals that we get, we fund. I think it is fair to say that we get more good ideas than money. And quite frequently we have, I won't say arguments, but we have nice discussions about if only we could go down 1 or 2 more, because I'd really like to see this proposal funded. And you know, but that's just the way it is. We have so much money that we can dole out, and we end up with more good ideas than dollars. However, I will say, students, a 50% funding rate is actually very, very good. At the National Science Foundation, for example, the funding rate in a program that I just got rejected from was 4%. So of 100 proposals, they funded 4.
And our funding rate has gone from about 40% up to over 60% too. So that's where we are trying to get the quality out of it, which I've always thought that was nice, that it isn't just a magical number that cut off and that's it.
That's right, it's not. Yeah. But historically, we're at about half of our proposals are being funded. Again, the money's going to be deposited in your mentor's D account, so don't call Joanne or Dr. Danforth and say, where is the check in the mail? No, it will be in your mentor's DE account. At the end, you will write a 2-page report that needs to tell us about what you've done, what you accomplished, but it also needs to have a statement on expenditures, how you spent the money. We got to keep track of all that.
You don't need receipts, unless your mentor, I guess they would need it for the
The
department.
mentor will have to have receipts to actually pay off on their P card or however they.
But we don't have to have them.
No. But our vice president for research who actually funds this likes to know how things are spent, and we need to have a paper trail in case somebody comes in and questions something, because it is your responsibility, you and the mentor, for spending things according to state law. And you need to talk to your mentor about that. There are certain things that are on state contract. I learned just the other day, I can't go to Office Depot and buy a laser printer cartridge. I got my hand slapped for that. We have a vendor that we have a state contract with. We are spending state money, and if you want to buy a laser printer cartridge, you need to go talk to the secretary in your department, because they know who to order those from. Okay? You can't just go to Office Depot and buy that kind of stuff.
And you can't buy a computer that you keep personally either.
That's
That goes
right.
under state property.
Yep.
You can't even have, let's say you wanted a focus group for a psychology project. You couldn't have food that you bring in as a way to say thank you for everybody, just as refreshments. You can't buy that. So.
And it's complicated, so talk to your mentor, make sure that's why we say, work with your mentor in developing the budget. It's very, very important. So now having, Dr. Danforth brought up, you can't have a personal computer, but let's say you're doing a series of surveys in the Delta, and you need an iPad or a tablet to record what you're doing. That's okay. I mean, it's okay to ask for that if you don't have it. It's just going to have a property tag on it, and when you're done, it's going to be returned to the university. I mean, that's fine. You can ask for what you need, but you got to understand that that's not your tablet or your computer. Talk a little bit about how the proposals are evaluated. I can tell you that every person on the steering committee takes this task very, very seriously. We do spend an awful lot of time on all the proposals. We do not have a process where we gloss over them and exclude. We spend time looking very carefully at all the proposals, trying to fund as many of them as we can. But we have a rubric, so to speak, of the factors that we take into account and how we rank them. These are actually weighted a little bit. Not everything is equal weight. I don't have that one up here. That happened last semester. But we're going to look at all these things. We're going to look at, was your proposal complete? If you turn in a proposal that doesn't have all the sections, you've made my life easy. It's not complete. Why should I give a person that didn't take all their time to put in a complete proposal money over somebody that did their due diligence? What does that say about your ability to complete the project? Maybe you just forget to finish the project, right? We don't know. So make sure that is complete. We take that very seriously. The originality, your scholarly problem, appropriateness of the research methods. We're going to look at the quality of your writing. We're going to look at your grade point average. Are you we don't have a specific grade point average cutoff, but you have to be in good standing. You can't be on probation and get one of these awards. So we do look at all of these things. Okay. Now, in terms of how you're going to upload those documents, so you're going to get those documents from the Center for Undergraduate Research webpage. You're going to fill them out, and you're going to go to this.
That has changed, I'm sorry.
That has changed?
That
Okay.
has changed. That was a dummy account that Josh Cromwell set up, and I thought that was the permanent address.
Okay.
The permanent address is on the website.
Okay, so the permanent address is not
Yes,
this?
and it's like, it's real similar, it's something like usmaquila.com, something like that.
Okay.
So it's not different. But this was just, I didn't realize this was a dummy one that he was working with until we got it
Oh,
finalized.
okay.
But everything else is okay.
Okay, so but we'll have that on the website?
Yes, it's
Okay,
on the
good.
website right now.
But when you get to the Aquila Digital Community, you'll see down here on the left, the Submit Research, you'll click on that. And that will take you to a login area. You'll create a new account and sign up. It's fast and it's free according to their site. I haven't done it myself yet, but you'll create an account there. And then you'll have all of this agreement stuff, that we rarely ever read in reality, right? We come down here and we check, and we click continue, and you just signed away your entire life. No, just kidding. And then you'll go to this page after you click there, and this is where you're going to do your submission. So you'll have a place to put your proposal title, the author being you, and you need to make sure that you put your name, first name, last name, first name, your institution. That information needs to go in there. Date of submission.
And if you have multiple authors, you can keep on adding.
You can just keep adding?
Yeah.
Okay. And then your date of submission, what department you're in, who your faculty mentor is. There's a comment section. Trying to think, what would we put in the comment section? I think it's just there, right?
Yeah, it's just there.
Yeah. And then below that comment section, I don't think there's any reason for you to put anything there. You will upload your files here.
Right.
So there's going to be two. There's a place for the mentor to upload their file and a place for you to upload your file that you from the template that you can get from the Center for Undergraduate Research. Okay. So it's a pretty straightforward process. I'd be happy to take any questions, but I'd like to just, if you haven't looked at our website, make sure you go to our Center for Undergraduate Research website where you can find whether or not your faculty mentor is actually affiliated with the Center for Undergraduate Research.
There's guidelines for filling out Eaglesburg, there's frequently asked questions, all the forms are there to download. So
We will put the slides from today on this website so you'll have access to them there.
So I just had a quick question, and you might, actually two quick things, and you may have touched on this, but in the budget, if you're soliciting participants, you can build in how you're gonna do that.
You mean where you give like $5 to people to participate?
Yes and no, maybe, but flyers, postings, things
Oh,
like
that
that.
That would be perfectly fine.
Absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Are you paying your people? And all-
I am,
both
the
of you are?
payment
So
participants.
you can build that
Yes.
as well, okay. And then the second thing, and I kind of assumed this, but in the travel portion of the budget, when you're talking about disseminating results, conference registration fees would be inclusive.
Yeah.
Although we are going to be having conference travel grants coming up, that's going to be money that Mr. Drapo gave us, it was extra.
Right. But that's competitive too.
That's competitive.
So you
too.
can't count on
Not
it.
assuming that the student's gonna win that, so
Right.
it's built in.
You can build in there,
Yeah.
yeah.
So if the student, but make sure you budget the student rate, not the
Right.
faculty mentor rate. They're not the same.
$1,000.
I also had two things. Next to some of these, you had a word count,
Yep.
approximate, but on one of them, you had a limit of 300 words. Is that a specific amount, or is that just a
These
general
are
idea?
all space boxes, and that's how much room you have, and so they're all approximate.
Okay.
Yes, just because somebody could have in chemistry words that are this long, or whatever.
Right.
So what it was, I remember when I was making the space, I went and I just got some chunk of text to see about 300 words and then added several more lines. And
Yeah.
so as long as
So
it
it's
fits, you're
approximate.
fine.
Okay.
I mean, if you're using words that are this long, you're not gonna have 300 words. But
No, and don't use 8-point type or something.
yeah. I mean, keep it at like Arial 11 or something like that. It's pretty good.
What about YouTube links? Will this file be like read online or like printed out? Cause I want to show YouTube videos of like what I'm trying to present or create. Would that work?
Links would, I mean, they're Word documents, so the links would be active, I think. I don't know if Aquila will mess with that or not.
I'm not sure.
However, you really can't add a link to go beyond the limit. You know what I'm saying? So,
This is
you
for
could-
bibliography. Sorry, this is for
Pardon?
bibliography.
bibliography?
Yeah, this is for bibliography.
Yeah, you can
sorry.
put that in the video.
Okay.
Yeah, we will.
Just so you can get.
But I want you to understand, we're under no obligation to go to those links,
Right.
right? I mean, just like a person puts something in a bibliography, that doesn't mean I go to the library and pull every book off the
But
shelf.
I think I also put like a detailed description of what was in this video and how it related to the project.
Okay, that,
Like an annotated bibliography.
yeah.
But just a YouTube link and a description.
Yeah, I think that'd be okay. But again, if it's if going to that YouTube link is critical to your argument,
Mm-hmm.
we're not, as reviewers, we're not obligated to go look at things that are outside of what you've submitted.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because it sort of extends your ability to make your case more than what other people would have to do, like, stay with the written word, so.
Right,
Okay, cool. Thank you.
exactly. Yeah.
So, if my mentor already has like, already agreed to cover the cost of, observation or whatever,
Uh-huh.
would it be able to cover like tuition or that kind of educational purposes or?
No, we're not gonna be able to pay tuition.
Okay.
We will cover the cost of the 1 credit hour for UNV 392. That's waived. I mean, I say we cover the cost, it's waived, but.
Because most of this is trying to help people facilitate the project. And your mentor already has covered costs, and you're farther ahead than most students from. So, yeah.
But you can pay yourself a stipend if you need to.
Yeah. That's legit, as long as you can justify why the stipend is needed, why you need that time, and how the stipend will give you that time.
That stipend costs training. If a student needs, like, potentially doing qualitative, if they need to gain some kind of expertise in qualitative other than me, faculty, instructing them, if they can attend a workshop, an online workshop, say, could some of that money cost that, cover that?
I would think
I don't
so.
see why not.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think that's perfectly
You know, if there's a
legitimate.
registration cost for that, that could certainly be there. If there's if it's a substantial week-long in the evening kind of training and, the student works in the evenings and is gonna have to request time off, I think you could request, lost, or at least partial lost wages in that area. I think it would be a legitimate argument, yeah.
I have another question. So, on the budget box, if we don't, have like a travel budget, cause I don't think I'll be traveling anywhere, can we just leave it blank? Cause you said that.
Oh, yeah, if you don't have commodities, for example, if all you needed was a stipend,
Mhm.
you would leave those sections that you don't need blank, absolutely.
Cause I think you said we have to present the work at a, scholastic venue.
A scholarly
So is
venue.
that included, is this travel included in that, or
No,
like,
you
is that
got the
like,
undergraduate research symposium here.
Now,
okay,
you can travel to a scholarly
Yes.
venue, and we count that. But
Okay.
we do have the undergraduate symposium here on campus that, you're not gonna have to pay to travel to.
right.
So if that's the venue in which you wanna present, we highly, highly, highly encourage you to do so.
Mhm.
Yeah, and a lot of times departments have symposia or colloquiums that you can
That's right.
present at. And also too, the Honors College has one, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
And then we're also resurrecting the Catalyst, which is the undergraduate research journal on campus. And publication is a way to present too.
Mhm.
For a public presentation, if somebody's doing an art project,
Sure.
having an exhibit or something is fine as well.
Maybe you have your
So
setup
can
out here in the
you,
library.
Cause I'm doing this work in a showcase theater, so like, can I put provided by the Department of Theater showcase?
Absolutely.
That's perfect.
Did you have a?
Do
Thought
you
I
both
saw
share
a
any
hand.
recommendations that you see? These are our two Eagle scholars who went through this process last spring and were very successful. Are there any thoughts you can share that you remember, that words of advice somebody gave you that were helpful, or?
I came to one of these presentations and I did just like flew looking at you guys and took notes and very specific notes and, I tried to do exactly follow the form, and like when he said this is not a letter of reference, that type thing, I made sure that all that was, I jotted that down. I would say one of the most important things is to find a mentor with whom you can work well. You're going to be in constant communication with those people, so that's very, very important.
One thing I'm impressed is now we're submitting, instead of having that form from before, that was the biggest headache. We're trying to put everything in and boxes are like shrinking, disappearing,
Yeah.
changing.
Yeah.
You go to copy and paste your references and it's completely
Walk time.
just wrong.
Mhm.
And at least with this way, I think y'all have a little bit more of an easier time when you put it in there. It's gonna fit different.
Good.
My last question, I think, is about the timeline. If I project that this will not be finished until the middle of next semester, that's just something that I would include in the proposal.
Mhm.
So,
So you're saying it
is
won't
there
take
a
all
limit?
of spring?
Is there well, if I start it now, I may not be finished because one of the components to what I'm doing is a conference that happens the end of December.
Mhm.
And so there's a few key interviews that I plan on doing at that conference, so I may not have that information to complete it until the beginning of the spring semester.
This is, the money you're requesting now is for the spring semester.
Ah, okay, all right,
So,
got it.
yeah. And it's also supposed to be for research done in the spring semester, so it's not supposed to retroactively
Okay, all right.
support you. So what you might do is say, I've completed this much work, this is what I'm gonna do for the spring, but be sure to justify that you're putting in 10 hours a week on it, so
Right,
it doesn't look like it's just writing up the last chapter and you'll be done in.
right,
whatever.
right, okay, got it.
So applications are due the 15th.
Yep.
Correct. And when typically do students hear? As far as
Usually,
November 1st?
yeah,
this?
so,
Couple weeks?
yeah, I mean, as soon as Joanne gets everything kind of sorted and,
But that's what this is gonna help.
yeah, I think this will make it a lot
Mission.
faster, yeah, and then she kind of gives us our assignments, and we actually asked previous Eagle Spur mentors to help us out, and then we get back everybody's forms, and we come together as a steering committee, and we look at all the scores, and we have a way in which that's normalized,
Yeah, that it's
and
weighted. Just
you know,
some
we
people
try to
get
make
higher scores
a
or something.
ranking, and we try to go till we run out of money
And this competition is just yearly, not, it doesn't happen.
every
in the fall.
semester, except the summer. We don't do the summer, but
So it'll
fall
happen
and
again
spring.
in the spring.
There will be a competition in the spring, and in the spring we have funded summer work.
Yes, if somebody, the idea is if you need to work in the summer, we're trying to make it that you're doing the research when you're also taking classes, so that everything is integrated, rather than the project being something you do for a couple hours a week while you're working full time. So that's the whole concept behind it, but sometimes people have to work in the summer because that's the only time the plant that they're trying to test blooms or
Mhm.
something like that, or they have to go away and the trip is long enough that they can do during the school
Yeah.
year, so that's fine.
We're pretty flexible. We've had situations where students have had unexpected hiccups. And as long as they get in touch with us, we've worked with them to make sure that they can, okay, it's not gonna happen on May 15th, it's not gonna be completely done, that's okay, you can go into the summer. But you need to keep us informed. We get together when those things happen, and we discuss the merits of the request. It doesn't happen often. I think maybe twice since we've been doing this, something like that, and,
And
we
it's
just.
very nice how everybody is usually very generous and supportive of the students.
Yeah, absolutely. But we just don't want situations, and we have had a situation where the student just kind of disappears. And, that's a situation where we had that money that could have gone down to the next person in the line that was probably very meritorious, and somebody just didn't do the work and didn't spend the money either, but it tied it up, and somebody else could have been funded. So if you do have a situation that comes up, personal issue, an illness, the research just ran into an unexpected data collection bump or whatever, we want to work with you. We don't, we're not.
And your budget is also changeable too. If something comes up, you find a better piece of equipment or whatever, just again, let us know, and most of the time that's no problem to adjust either.
We have rules and guidelines, but we're pretty flexible as long as it's a rational approach and something that makes sense. Yeah.
This is my last question, I promise. So, on the department listing, I'm intertwining two departments, so do I just put department of this and this, or do I just put one department?
Your
You
mentor,
put
which.
that comments.
There you go. You can put it in the
Yeah, all right, your comment.
Oh, put it in the comments?
I guess you can, yeah. Which department is your mentor in?
No, my mentor is in the Department of Dance, but I'm intertwining dance and theater. That's
Okay. I would probably go ahead and just put the department that your mentor is in.
okay. Then just put in comments, I'm intertwining
Yeah.
two departments.
Yeah.
And you'll also, I'm sure, bring that out in your application too, so,
Right.
so we'll figure it out, yeah,
That makes
where
sense.
what's going on.
Are you a double major?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's maybe something else to put in your personal statement or the comment section? Yeah, that'd be a good thing to do. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Anything else you can think of that?
And one thing I would like to mention is when you look at some of the past recipients, you'll see, like if you're not in the hard sciences, you might see something that's very, very impressive, simply because it's outside of your realm of knowledge. And I was a little intimidated by that, some of that, but I I was encouraged to go ahead and apply, and I did receive it, so don't let some of those things that is necessarily not in your field, you don't understand it, don't let that intimidate you.
And we try to do diversity as much as we can in what is funded, so it isn't just because it's science, it's gonna be more impressive and shouldn't apply if you're in dance or English or something like that.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, we are the Center for Undergraduate Research, but we take research to be what I would consider research and scholarly activities.
Right.
And we make sure we pass the wealth around. I mean, I think we take that very seriously, and
every year it's becoming more and more diverse, because the first year it was overwhelmingly in the sciences.
it was, yeah.
And now it's much more equitable. We're still looking for people for nursing and business, so those are areas that are still underrepresented. And a little bit in health, but the other 3 colleges have their representative fair
Absolutely.
share.
Absolutely. All right, well, thanks for coming,
Thank you.
and I hope it was informative, and look forward to reading your proposals.
Yes. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. Sometimes we think that it can be done